This session is going to show you how to document a vaccination in the clinic. Once the order is entered for the vaccination on the SP tab that you need for charges to drop or for any type of service that's being performed in the clinic. On the left-hand side, you're going to see there are two different categories. There are private vaccines for commercial payer patients, and then there are vaccines for children vaccines for those that may be supplied through the state program. Depending on if your clinic participates or not, the build in the background is different because the charges would be different. So for this particular patient, I'm going to use the private vaccines, and I am going to select that we're going to administer the Rototech. To document the vaccine, I'm going to go to the top toolbar to the little syringe picture. And if you hover, it says vaccinations. That's where you go to document the vaccinations. So you can see when I get to rotavirus, it's automatically pre-populated some of the fields for us based on the build in the background. Today's date, the vaccine type. Many of these fields are determined by the state registries, and they have specific characters that have to be used. BFC eligibility is auto-populated, our route, our manufacturer, the VIS date, the VIS given date. You can also pre-populate lot numbers, expiration date on the vaccines. However, that requires somebody to be in your clinic that will handle keeping that updated as your vaccine stock turns over. So to document for this patient, we're skipping a refusal, although there is options here for you to select why the patient refused. For our historical source, I'm going to hit the magnifying glass to bring up all of my options. If I hit search, I'm going to drag this over so you can see that better. This is not historical information we're entering, it's a new record. So I'm going to select new, completion status, select the magnifying glass. I'm going to say we completed it. The dose, we're just going to enter 20 cc's. And then for the funding source, I'm going to select the magnifying glass. And I already said that this was going to be coming out of the private funds. And so I'm going to pick that. It's administered by PO, so you don't need a site. If it were an injection, you have the options just like you see down here for the different sites that you can administer. I'm going to put in my lot number. I'm going to skip over to the expiration date so that I can document that for the vaccine. Got my VIS and my VIS given. I'm going to scroll over. I can put in the administered by. I'm going to put my initials, but each clinic is a little different on what they expect you to do. So that's completed. However, I also want to show on this same section, you can also input history from this tab as well. So you have moms brought in maybe a copy of the vaccine card from another provider and you want to enter that information. You can pick your type of vaccine. So I'm going to say that the patient received a Hib vaccine. I'm going to pick the date that mom told us it was given. So you can see this says this entry is a default time frame. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to put in the date. So it tells me it's an invalid time frame. So I'm going to go back. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger so you can see it. I'm sure it's small on the screen. I apologize. So you have many options to choose from here. I'm going to pick it from the calendar because then you know it's going in correctly. Some fields in Aprima, they want you to put in dashes or slashes, and other ones they don't. So sometimes it's easier just to go to the calendar and pick your date. Your historical source, it's going to be a new immunization. No, it's not. It's historical information. I apologize. from another provider is what we're going to say. So it tells you where you got that, and I'm going to say okay. And so now it's going to populate that for you. So we documented the rotavirus for today. You can see the HIB is here. Previous documented vaccines are there. It will tell you at the top in a yellow bar if you've missed a mandatory field, and it won't let you complete the note without that being done. There are options to get the record from the registry up here, if you see that button, if you have an interface set up with your state registry. I'm going to say OK now. There are other tabs that you can document historical information for vaccines. If you go to your History tab and you go to the immunization history, it will pull up the same um, information that you saw when you went to the little syringe icon that's currently grayed out. And so this is how you could input history through selecting that button, just like we did under the other tab. However, you can't enter vaccines that you're administering in the clinic on this section. It can only be historical information entered from the History tab. Okay, and so once you're done, you would complete your note or leave it incomplete if the provider needs to go back in and finish their documentation.